After a long and difficult journey, Lin Feng and his companions finally arrived at the foot of Seal Mountain. The air here was heavy with a thick, clinging mist that seemed to swallow all sound. Except for the eerie, distant howls that sent shivers down their spines, Bai Ying's face was grim. "This is a forbidden land of old," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "A place where the veil between worlds is thin." Ignoring the ominous signs, Lin Feng pressed on, guided only by the faded lines on his father's map. But they were not alone. Shadows detached themselves from the mist, revealing the relentless pursuers from the demon cult. The pursuit captain, a hulking figure with a cruel sneer, lunged forward. Yu Hui met him head-on, their blades clashing in a shower of sparks. As the battle raged, Lin Feng instinctively moved to protect Zhao Lan, his sword a blur of motion. Bai Ying, a whirlwind of grace and lethality, single-handedly held off 3 of the cult's elite experts, her movements precise and deadly. Seeing they were outnumbered, the group retreated, plunging into a dense stone forest. The labyrinth of rock formations closed in around them, and suddenly the ground began to tremble. Ancient runes carved into the stones flared to life, activating a powerful, long-dormant formation. The world warped and twisted. The very air shimmered, and in a blinding flash of light, they were violently separated. Lin Feng found himself alone, stumbling through a disorienting crimson fog. The air was thick with the scent of blood. Through the haze, ghostly figures appeared as parents, their eyes filled with sorrow and accusation just as he remembered them from the night they were slain. Grief and rage surged within him, a dark tide threatening to pull him under. He raised his sword, his sanity fraying, when a sharp voice cut through the illusion. "Lin Feng, wake up." Bai Ying's hand clamped onto his shoulder, shattering the mirage. They found Zhao Lan nearby, thankfully only lightly injured. But where was Yu Hui? Elsewhere in the treacherous formation, Yu Hui was trapped in his own personal hell. He saw an illusion of Lin Feng, his trusted friend, standing over the bodies of his family, a bloody sword in hand. The image whispered of betrayal and deceit. Consumed by despair, Yu Hui raised his own blade to his throat. Just as he was about to end it all, Lin Feng burst through the illusory wall, tackling him to the ground and breaking the formation's hold. Reunited and shaken, they finally escaped the stone forest's trap. Before them lay a vast, sunken valley, bathed in an unnatural red light. At its center stood a crude stone altar, and upon it a sword. It was long, black, and seemed to drink the very light from the air, pulsing with a faint, malevolent crimson glow. The bloodblade. Zhao Lan gasped, her body trembling as she recognized the sigil of the blood god carved into the altar. "Do not draw the sword," Bai Ying warned, her voice deadly serious. But Lin Feng barely heard her. A chorus of whispers echoed in his mind, beckoning him, calling his name. Suddenly, the cliffs surrounding the valley were lined with figures. The demon cult had surrounded them. A man in crimson robes descended into the valley, his presence radiating immense power. It was Crimson Rain, the leader of the demon cult. He looked at Lin Feng, a chilling smile on his face. "Welcome, heir of the blood god." "I don't know what you're talking about," Lin Feng spat, but his denial was weak. Crimson Rain didn't bother to argue. He attacked. The sheer force of his aura sent Yu Hui flying backward, overwhelmed. Bai Ying met the cult leader's charge, their battle shaking the very foundations of the valley. Zhao Lan, meanwhile, threw up a shimmering protective barrier around them. As the chaos swirled, an undeniable instinct, a primal pull, guided Lin Feng's hand toward the hilt of the bloodblade. The moment his fingers touched the cold metal, a terrifying power surged through him. The blade erupted in a blinding crimson flare, and the altar beneath it cracked and splintered. The raw, untamed energy threatened to devour him whole. With a desperate cry, Bai Ying lunged, pulling him away just as the valley began to collapse. The ground gave way, and in the ensuing chaos, everyone scattered, fleeing for their lives. Barely escaping the collapse of Seal Mountain, the group found a temporary refuge. But Lin Feng was not at peace. The whispers of the bloodblade still echoed in his mind, and a strange blood-red mark had appeared on the back of his hand. Bai Ying examined it closely. "I've seen this before," she said, her expression troubled. "It's an ancient sigil, one belonging to the blood clans. The revelation prompted Xiaolan to finally break her silence. She confessed she was not just a simple village girl, but the guardian of a sacred seal. "Who am I?" Lin Feng demanded, his voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. Xiaolan told them the legend of the blood god. A being of immense power that his ancestors, the Lin clan, had sealed away centuries ago. The demon cult's true purpose was to break that seal, using him as the key. Then came another shock. Bai Ying admitted she was once a member of the demon cult. She had fled after discovering their apocalyptic goal to unleash the blood god. The confession shattered the group's fragile trust. Yu Hui, in particular, now looked at her with suspicion and resentment. Their immediate priority was Lin Feng's worsening condition. They traveled to the bustling Lotus City, seeking a renowned healer. But they were not the only ones searching. Rumors, fanned by the demon cult, had spread like wildfire, telling of a marked one who was the key to ultimate power. Lin Feng was nearly arrested by city guards who mistook him for a cultist, only to be saved once again by Bai Ying's swift intervention, an act that only deepened Yu Hu's jealousy. The old healer took one look at the mark on Lin Feng's hand. "The blood seal has awakened," he declared gravely. "The power within you is growing unstable. You could lose control at any moment." Bai Ying proposed a dangerous solution, a temporary sealing ritual to contain the power. Left with no other choice, Lin Feng agreed. As the ritual began, the blood seal's energy erupted with unimaginable violence. Lin Feng cried out, his body convulsing as the crimson aura threatened to consume him. At that very moment, the demon cult laid siege to Lotus City. Crimson Rain's voice boomed across the walls, demanding they surrender Lin Feng. With Lin Feng incapacitated, Yu Wei took command of the city's defense. Xiaolan struggled to maintain the ritual's formation, while Bai Ying fought fiercely alongside the city guards. The battle was desperate. Crimson Rain, a force of nature, smashed through a section of the wall. Yu Hui met him in a duel, but was no match for the cult leader's power. He was struck down, gravely injured. Just as all hope seemed lost, the ritual chamber exploded outwards. Lin Feng emerged, walking calmly onto the battlefield. His eyes glowed with a terrifying red light, and a crimson aura pulsed around him. He raised his hand, and with a single, effortless strike, he sent Crimson Rain flying backward. The sheer display of power echoed the demon cult, who quickly retreated to regroup. The battle was won, for now, but as the adrenaline faded, Lin Feng stared at his own hand, now stained with a bloody light, horrified by the monster he was becoming. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next.